Alright guys, so this is going to be lesson 612. It's our day 1 lesson. We're going to spend 3 days on this. This whole section is all about volume. So we're going to talk about volume today, Monday, and Tuesday. So this isn't printed up anywhere for this warm-up, so I thought I would just go through it and you could just kind of listen as a review of how to find area of a regular polygon. So, sorry that my not much of a voice. So remember that the area of a regular polygon is 1/2 apothem times perimeter. So when I look at my regular hexagon over here, I actually have the apothem already. Remember your apothem is your altitude. So I'm just going to cross this off. So this is 10. What I need then is the perimeter, and that's it. So I need this right here. Knowing that this is a hexagon, so I could say 6 minus 2. I need this angle right here. So I need that angle. I can find that by doing 6 minus 2 times 180 divided by 6. And that tells me that all of the angles in this hexagon are 120, but that angle is bisected. So this angle is actually 60. So now I can use the tangent of 60 equals the opposite over adjacent, which tells me that my x is about, oops, so I'm going to do 10 divided by the tangent of 60, and I get that x is about 31.25. Okay? So now that I know what x is, I can say that my area of my figure is equal to 1/2 my apothem, which is 10, my perimeter, which is 31.25. I need to double that to get the whole side length, and then need to multiply by 6, because there's 6 sides. So all of this right here is giving me my perimeter. So I get that my area is about 1875, exactly, somehow, square feet. Okay. And number 2, a circle has an area of 592 square inches. Find the circumference of the circle. Well, in order to find circumference, which is 2 pi r, I need to find my r. So if I know my area, which is pi r squared, I can substitute in to solve for r. So 592 equals pi r squared. So the first thing I'm going to do is divide by pi. And then after I do that, I'm going to take the square root. And when I do that, I get that r is about 13.73, which means my circumference would be 2 times pi times 13.73, which tells me my circumference is about 86.27 inches, because it's just circumference. Okay? Alright, so so your objective is that you can find the volume of prisms, cylinders, pyramids, and cones. And again, we're going to take this a little step further than what you did in 7th and 8th grade, and we're going to kind of focus on volume today, but then also the objective is really that by the end of this, that you can be given the volume and find the height of a figure, the length of a base, the width of the base, something like that. Okay? So, a prism, so now that you have these, you can fill this out. A prism, as we talked about yesterday, or 2 days ago, sorry. A prism means that there are 2 parallel bases and two parallel congruent bases. In a prism, the bases will always be polygons. The formula for finding the volume of a prism is capital B times H, and remember that capital B means area of base. So that base will change. That base could be a triangle, which is 1/2 base times height. That base could be a rectangle, length times width. That base could be a polygon, so 1/2 apothem times perimeter. Okay. A cylinder is very similar, but instead of the bases being polygons, the bases will always be circles. The formula is the same, area of the base times the height. However, we know that if the base is a circle, the area of a circle is pi r squared times height. So this would be your capital B. Okay? Anytime that you have something coming to a point, you're going to have a pyramid. The definition of a pyramid is that one base, that there's only one base and it comes to a point. Because it comes to a point, you actually lose 2/3 your volume, so you only want 1/3 of the area of the base times the height. Okay, and then the pyramid will always have bases that are polygons. So again, that area of the base could be a triangle, could be a rectangle, could be a square, could be a polygon, in which case then this right here would be a different formula for each of those. A cone is very similar. It has one base as well, but in order to be a cone, that base will always be a circle, and then it comes to a point as well. So the volume, again, you lose 2/3 of your volume, so you actually only want 1/3 of the area of the base times the height. Because we're talking about a cone, the area of the base will always be pi r squared. So your formula will actually be this. Not something you need to memorize because you should already know what a circle, the formula for a circle. A sphere, you can think about it as a ball, a three-dimensional circle. But the volume for a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. Make sure that you put this as a 3 and not a 2. So pi r cubed, unlike a circle, which is pi r squared. Alright? So when finding the volumes of cylinders, you want to make sure that you identify the shape, meaning is it a prism or is it a pyramid, because that's going to dictate whether it's area of the base times height or just base or 1/3 area of the base times height. And then once you do that, you can determine the formula. Okay? So, number one. So a square prism, you need to pay attention to the fact that it's a square. A square prism has a base with a side length of 4 centimeters and a height of 12 centimeters. Find the volume. Well, if it's a square prism, it means that the base is a square, not that all of the faces are squares, just the base. So we know it's a prism, so we know we're going to do area of the base times height. But because it's a square, the base just means that all the sides are the same, so when we say length times width times height, we know that length and width are the same. So if it's got a side length of 4, it would be 4 times 4, and the height of the prism is 12. So the volume would be 192 centimeters. We need to make sure we cube because we're talking about volume now. Okay, so you just really have to pay attention to this word right here. A cylinder has a radius of 8 inches and a height of 5.2 inches. Find the volume. So I'm going to start by writing out the formula. Because it's a cylinder, it's area of the base times height. Because it's a cylinder, the base is a circle, which is pi r squared. So that means my volume will be pi. My radius is 8, so pi r squared. And the height of my cylinder is 5.2. So go ahead and type that in your calculator. We should have gotten 1,045.52 inches cubed. Alright, so those are pretty straightforward, just volume. Flip over to the next page. Number 3, a cone has a height, so we're talking about a cone now, so it comes to a point. A cone has a height of 11.2 meters and a diameter of 14 meters. Find the volume. So let's start off with the formula. To find the volume, because it's a cone, I need to make sure I do 1/3 area of the base times height. So I will do 1/3 my base, because it's a cone, and a cone has a circle as a base. The area of that's pi r squared. So I need to find the area of the base. So pi, if the diameter is 14, then that means the radius is 7. So r squared. And the height of my figure is 11.2. So take a second and put that in your calculator. You should get 574.70 meters. Alright. sphere has a diameter of 4.6 feet. What is the volume? So the formula is 4 thirds pi r cubed. Make sure you put cubed. I always remember that these threes are the same. The only thing that you need for a sphere is the radius. That's it. So 4 thirds times pi. My radius, if my diameter is 4.6, my radius is half of that, so 2.3. So times 2.3 cubed. So go ahead and plug that in your calculator. You should get that the volume is 50.97 feet cubed. Alright, so the first four should be pretty straightforward, as long as you recognize what the base is. Find the area of that shape, and then just multiply by the height of the figure. Okay. Number 5. A sphere has a volume of 33,369 cubic yards. What is the diameter? Well, a sphere, so think about, like, well, how did they find the volume? They found it by doing 4 thirds pi r cubed. In order to find the diameter, I want to find the radius, so 3369 equals 4 thirds pi r cubed. So I need to solve. I need to undo everything. I'm going to start by multiplying by the reciprocal. I hate fractions, so I want to get rid of it. So I do 3369 times 3/4, or 0.75. You get 2526.75 equals pi r cubed. Divide by pi. And you get 804.29 equals r cubed. And in order to undo this being cubed, I raise it to the reciprocal power. So I raise it to the 1/3. Remember, don't divide by 3. Don't multiply by 1/3. Raise it to the 1/3. And then you should be using the answer that's already in your calculator, so the one that's unrounded. So raise that answer to the 1/3. And you get that your radius is about 9.30, which means your diameter is double that. So your diameter would be about 18.60 yards, because it's just a length. There you go. Alright, so that's the first one of working backwards, and we'll try it again. This one you're going to have to change, sorry, just kind of cross some stuff off and change it, pause it if you need to, but it's definitely not the same problem as on your notes. A square pyramid has a volume of 137.25 cubic inches and a height of 2.25 feet. What is the side length of the square pyramid? Okay, so we're told that it's a square pyramid, so that tells us a couple things. First of all, it tells us what the shape of the base is, and it tells us that we're talking about a pyramid, which means that we're doing 1/3 area of the base times height. Okay, now we know that the volume is 137.25. We know that equals 1/3. If it's a square pyramid, it means my base is a square. Because it's a square, I know I find the area of it, so the area of the base. I know I do that by just doing, it's the same thing, so I could say side squared, or side times side, or length times length. So, so I'm just going to write s squared. And then my height of the figure is 2.25. Okay, again, I'm doing this because I know it's a square, so I don't have to say length times width. I know it's the exact same thing, so now I have only one variable. So, first thing, you could do this a couple ways. You could multiply your 1/3 times 2.25. You could also undo the 1/3 and multiply all of this by 3. Multiply this by 3. We'll go ahead and do that. You get 441.75, which equals s squared times 2.25. Okay, divide both sides by 2.25. You get exactly 183 equals s squared. So take the square root of both sides. So my side is about, remember you should have two answers, but the negative answer wouldn't make sense. So you should get that side length is about 13 feet. Alright, cross this. Oops, sorry. Don't cross that off. This is supposed to be feet. We could have converted, but I don't want to go back and change it, so go ahead and change it to feet so it's all in the same thing. So what is the side length of the square pyramid? The side length is about 13.53 feet. Alright, let's try again. So this next one, you can see we want to find the radius, which means, again, we're working backwards. So a cylinder has a volume of 1,923 cubic millimeters and a height of 4 millimeters. Find the radius. So cylinder means that in order to find the volume of a cylinder, we're doing area of the base times height. Okay, we don't need to do 1/3. It's not a pyramid, it's not a cone. Right. I know the volume is 1923, which equals the area of my base. If it's a cylinder, it's a circle, so the area of my base would be pi r squared, and the height of my figure is 4. Okay, so I want to undo all this. So the first thing I'm going to do is divide by 4. So I get 480.75 equals pi r squared. I'm going to divide by pi. 153.03 equals r squared. So I'm going to take the square root. I'm going to take the square root of the unrounded answer that's in my calculator. Remember, technically we get 2 answers, but we don't want the negative. So if you use the unrounded answer, you would get about 12.37 millimeters, which is what we should be using. Alright. Number 8. A pyramid has a base, so pyramid's very important there. A pyramid has a base with an area of 38 square inches and a volume of 392 cubic inches. Find the height. So we're not told what type of pyramid this is, but we really actually don't need it. If we're thinking about a pyramid, we know volume equals 1/3 area of the base times height for all of them. We know that our volume is 392. This is 1/3. The area of the base, we don't really need to know what it is because we know that the base has an area of 38 inches, 38 square inches, and we want to know what the height is, so we want to know what this is. Okay? So, again, you can multiply 1/3 by 38, but you get a repeating decimal, and I don't want to deal with that, so I'm just actually going to undo this, and I'm going to multiply both sides by 3, since it's the reciprocal of 1/3. So you're writing down all these steps. So I get 1176 equals 38h. So divide both sides by 38. So do that. And I get 30.95 inches. And that's it. Alright, so as you can see, every time you work backwards, you really want to start. Don't fill anything in. I highly recommend just starting by writing out the formula for the shape that you have. Notice that all of these, I did not actually put any numbers in. I just wrote out the formula that I knew would work for this figure. Okay, and then substitute it. Alright. Alright, I would draw out what's going to happen in this one. So, it says, Mr. Lubers is packing his telescope to move to his new house. We'll have to gaze at stars, apparently. In order to ensure safe delivery, it is best to pack the telescope in a cylindrical container, so in a cylinder. If Mr. Lubers' telescope has a diameter of 6.58 inches and a volume of 491 cubic inches, will it fit into a cylinder container with a radius of 4 inches and a height of 15 inches? So I'm taking the telescope and putting it into the cylinder. So just to give you an idea, let's say this is the container. Not my best cylinder, but the cylinder container has a radius of 4. So this is 4. And it has a height of 15 inches. I want to know if the telescope which will draw a smidgen smaller, assuming that it's smaller container. The telescope has a diameter of 6.58 inches, but it has a volume of 491. Oops, sorry, volume. Okay, so we can't really compare too much here. We know that this has a diameter of 8, and 6.58 will fit in there. What I want to know is maybe if this is too tall for it. So maybe let's see if we can find the height of this little one. So the volume of the cylinder is equal to the area of the base times the height. So that means that 491 is equal to the area of the base is pi r squared. Well, the r would be half of 6.58. So 3.29 pi r squared, and this whole part is the area of my base times my height, which is what I don't know. So the first thing I'm going to do to solve this is divide by pi, which gives me 156.29, which is equal to, oh, actually never mind, I'm sorry, I'm making this way hard. I'm going to erase this. I'm going to get an answer for this right here. So I'm going to do pi r squared in my calculator, which tells me that 491 equals about 34h. So to solve for h, I'm going to divide. Now I'm going to keep the exact answer in my calculator, which was like 34.0049, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to take 491 and divide it by that answer. Remember, dividing your calculator with that answer, you just hit divided by and then second minus sign. So you should get that h is about 14.44, which if this height of the telescope is 14.44 and the height of the container is 15, then it'll clearly fit inside that container height-wise. The radius is 3.29 and the radius of this shape is 4, so then that means that this actually will fit inside because the radius is smaller and the height is smaller. Okay, be careful that you don't find the volume. You don't really want the volume of this figure because I could have a volume that the height wouldn't fit. I could have a volume that fits number-wise, but then if the height's too big, it still wouldn't fit inside of it. So you want to make sure that you find the height to justify your answer. Okay? Alright, the next one. Find the volume of the rectangular pyramid. So we know our base is a rectangle. We know because it's a pyramid, we're going to be doing 1/3 area of the base times height. Because it's a rectangle, I know the area of the base is length times width times height. So those are the three things that I need. Well, this is my height. When I look at my rectangle, I already have the base and the width. So the only thing that I'm missing is my height. Okay. Well, if this is a pyramid and with this as a 90-degree angle, what it means is that this pyramid hasn't been slanted at all. So that means I know that this segment right here is exactly half of this side, and that's not an assumption. I know that as long as my pyramid is not slanted. So 63 divided by 2 tells me that this is 31.5, and now I have two pieces of information so I can solve for that height. Alright, so I'm going to use my tangent of 55 degrees is equal to my height over 31.5, which tells me that my height is about 44.99 meters. So if I want to find the volume of my pyramid, I will do 1/3 the area of my base, which is 18 times 63. So that's the area of my base. That's my rectangle. And then my height, I just found by using trig, is 44.99. But again, we couldn't have found that height unless we understood that if I take 63 and cut it in half, I get that. So this length would also be 31.5. Okay, and as long as we don't give you a slanted pyramid, which we I don't believe do, and if we did, we would tell you. Okay, so go ahead and use your calculator to find that answer. I find out that my volume is about 17,006.22 meters cubed. Alright, so you guys really need to pay attention now to your units. Is it meters? Is it meters squared? Is it meters cubed? So anytime you have volume, it's cubed. Anytime it's area, it's squared. And anytime it's the length of a base, a radius, a diameter, it's always just going to be your meters or your inches or feet. Okay? Alright. We already talked about that. Alright, so your homework is number 4, so you just need to go show the sub that you are done, and you can pick up this worksheet. And it's a lot of the same thing going back and forth. Find your volume, find your volume, find your volume, find your volume. So identify your shape, and then you can find your volume. Identify the area of the base. Find your radius, work backwards. Find your height, work backwards. Find your volume, work backwards. Alright, now on the backside, you're going to use your formulas and trig because you have angles. You see trig and trig a couple times. Okay? If you have any questions coming on Monday, and I'd be happy to answer them, but on Monday is when the lesson gets a little bit harder and we start to work a little bit more with your knowledge of volume. Alright, have a good weekend. Sorry my voice is kind of gone. See you Monday.